Yeah, so El Salvador's fascist crypto president, Bukele, having a fun conversation. It's been great, you know. I'm not gonna lie, folks. It's looking pretty grim. This is like a DEFCON 1 constitutional crisis right here. For those of you who recall, and you should, because it happened very recently. I don't know what's wrong with you if you don't remember this. The Supreme Court issued a very unexpected 9-0 ruling supporting a lower federal court in their demand that the Trump administration return Abrego Garcia, the innocent man who was deported to El Salvador's torture prison, in what even the Trump administration has admitted was a mistake. Totally innocent guy. Sent him down for no reason. Anyway, let's see what's happened since then. Well, the Trump administration has issued a response to the 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, essentially saying no. The Supreme Court said that the Trump administration has to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia. Let's read. Defendants understand facilitate to mean what that term has long meant in the immigration context, namely actions allowing an alien to enter the United States. Taking all available steps to facilitate the return of Abrego Garcia is thus best read as taking all available steps to remove any domestic obstacles that would otherwise impede the alien's ability to return here. Indeed, no other reading of facilitate is tenable or constitutional here. This is an obvious bad faith lie. It's a shockingly transparent lie. What the Trump administration's basically saying is, yeah, the Supreme Court's basically said, like, don't prevent him from coming back here if he wants to come back. But he's also in, like, you know, a gulag in El Salvador that we sent him to. And we can't do anything about that. Yeah, facilitate means make it happen. There's no ambiguity about that legally. Did they even give a formal request from El Salvador? No. Why would they do that? They don't want to bring this guy back. It's pretty bad. Basically, what I think the Trump administration is doing here is by acting in obvious bad faith with an interpretation of the order, what they're essentially saying to the conservative Supreme Court justices is, you get one more chance. Like, okay, you had your fun with your 9-0 ruling against me. We'll pretend that this was in line with our wishes. But you know, don't push the issue, you know? The Trump administration is pretending that they're in concurrence with the Supreme Court's ruling. They're obviously not. More fun stuff from the administration, essentially, like the implication of this being like, they can send anyone they want to foreign prisons, and once they send you there, they will never, ever get you back, no matter what. So anyway, you know, we had Bukele at the White House today.
Promise you, if he was your neighbor,
there's Stephen Miller.
You would move right away.
So you don't plan to ask for it?
Court's asking to.
I like the opening for this clip. They're talking about a completely innocent man.
Promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan to ask for it?
But the Supreme Court's asking to.
Is that
what was the ruling in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
in our favor.
In our favor, against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam.
So this is like a blatant lie. This is just a straightforward rejection of the court's order. There's no, like, there's no, and also huge points, massive ups in the polling market bets of Stephen Miller being the person actually running the White House, because Trump very obviously does not know any of the details of the case. Like, he's being given information right now by Stephen, who's going about as far as you can here. I mean, this is honestly quite shocking. I guess I didn't really expect, like, what might be the worst constitutional crisis in the country's history. Like, we're reaching past Andrew Jackson here, because Andrew Jackson at least admitted that he was defying the Supreme Court, whereas in this case, the administration is essentially pretending that they're not defying the Supreme Court and saying, go ahead, I dare you, test me. Issue an injunction. We don't give a
said the ruling solely stated that if this individual at El Salvador's sole discretion was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
no version of this legally ends up with him ever living here, because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked.
Again, it's just a lie. By the like, there's even legal precedent for this, by the way, for people having been mistakenly sent to foreign prisons through extradition. And usually when this happens, we just get them out, because we can get them out easily. We're the United States of America. We can easily do that. Trump could get anyone out of Bukele's CSOT with no effort. It would take absolutely nothing. El Salvador is effectively like a client state of the United States. How do we even recover from this? In a sane country, this would be like a military intervention. Oh yeah, more from Stephen Miller.
Is Gitmo still open? Are there any illegal immigrants who have been taken to Guantanamo Bay today, or has that prison been closed?
No, it's wide open. Gitmo is open. There are a number of foreign terrorist aliens that are being housed at Gitmo, awaiting final removal to another destination. But what I want to be very clear on,
Can you tell me how
Bill,
many?
No, I cannot. That's operationally sensitive information.
Dozens or more?
It's a large number. The exact number is operationally sensitive to do with military and other considerations relating to the security of those who are there and the security of those who are operating the facility. But I want to be very, very clear about this, Bill. We've been living through a hoax. Nobody was mistakenly sent to El Salvador. He was ordered deported from this country in 2019. He's an illegal alien. His home nation is El Salvador. That is where he belongs.
Again, the administration has already admitted that they sent him there mistakenly, and there was a court order to not send him there, which was violated. The Supreme Court has ruled on this. It seems like this is literally Stephen Miller taking the reins, and he's like, well, no, we can push this as far as we want to, actually. He's unambiguously the most intelligent and evil person, or maybe he's the person. It's CCOT, not CSOT. I'll pronounce it however I like. I don't respect it or the country that it's rooted in. If you have, like, I guess if you're trying to measure on an average between evil and intelligence, Stephen Miller is definitely the highest up in the administration. I guess it's shocking how, like, prominent of a role he's taking, considering his, like, nominal responsibilities. But let's not push that he's intelligent. He is. It's no point in being, like, dishonest about it. He is. He's just incredibly evil. He's a Nazi. That's not subtle. He's been arguing publicly for white nationalism for years and years. I mean, this goes back a while. It seems like what he's trying to do, like, we're running up against the limit of what the Trump administration can do before they're in open violation of court orders, right? With the Supreme Court as well. And it seems like Stephen's playing like he's gambling at all, right? He's essentially saying, like, no, you can actually do literally anything. Like, you don't even have to keep it within the constraints of what your conservative Supreme Court will allow you to do. You can ignore them too. That's what you know, executive. Why am I blanking on this? It's the main thing Project 2025 is going for. Executive independence, executive autonomy, unitary executive theory. Thank you. That's what unitary executive theory means. That's the whole point of it. Like, you don't even need to be beholden to conservative judges. You can do literally anything that you want. He's testing. It's not even testing, man. Like, it's tested. Unless the Supreme Court does something. And what would they even do? Anyway, this doesn't end with citizens. Here's a cute little clip. Is it this one right here that was caught on El Salvadoran, or the El Salvador's broadcast?
Demanded the people wanted to change everything, and they wanted. He demanded, they love you, they love what you do. You know, I'm not for support. I want him to do, you know, homegrown criminals next. Yeah. I said, homegrowns are next. The homegrown's built. You got to build about 5 more places. Yeah, that's fair. All right. It's not big enough. Oh, yeah. Come on. So this is a much.
Homegrowns are next. You've got to build like 5 more places. They're not big enough. Can't hear shit. You could have if you were trying harder. It's not a secret. I mean, they repeat it. Where's the other bit? There we go.
Are you willing to pay for those facilities to be opened if new ones were going to be built?
I'd do something. We'd help them out. Yeah, we help them. They're great facilities, very strong facilities, and they don't play games. I'd like to go a step further. I mean, I said it to Pam. I don't know what the laws are. We always have to obey the laws, but we also have homegrown criminals that push people into subways, that hit elderly ladies on the back of the head with a baseball bat when they're not looking, that are absolute monsters. I'd like to include them in the group of people to get them out of the country, but you'll have to be looking at the laws on that, Steve, okay?
I feel like it's notable too that when the idea of an irredeemable criminal who needs to be sent to a foreign gulag comes to mind, he thinks of what is that, white bashing? He's thinking of that like prominent and very racialized trend of like purportedly like groups of black teenagers running around hitting white people then scooting off. Like, he doesn't say rapists or murderers or anything like that, or like a generalized criminal term. Yeah, he's talking about the knockout game. He's talking about like a very specific like racialized, like the only people who talk about the knockout game are racists at this point, because we're talking about like a blip in a trend from years ago. You can just say assaults, murders, whatever the you know, it's racialized for a reason, right? What happened with Iran? Jesus, one subject at a time, man. The world is ending, like, you know, not that fast. We can get to everything when we get a chance to. Apparently, the El Salvadoran president refused to send the guy back, even though the court clarified their ruling. No, he's lying. Again, we're the United States. We can do anything we want. We sent them there. We're paying him to take our gulag prisoners. The idea that we couldn't remove... Here's an easy one. Hey, you're going to give us back that person now, or we're going to, I don't know, tariff you. We seem to be so willing to do that to other people. Or we're not going to send any other prisoners your way, like actual prisoners who deserve to be there. Or we'll engage in military action against you because you're holding somebody unlawfully against our... We could do anything we want. The only reason Bukele is saying he can't remove this person is because the Trump administration coached him to say that. That's it. If they said, remove this man and bring him back to the U.S., Bukele would say, yes, sir, and get down on his hands and knees like a dog. It's a client state. He has no power. Absolutely none.
¿Usted lo liberaría, Presidente Bukele? Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to be suggesting that I smuggle terrorists into the United States, right?
It's always
how can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like, I smuggle him into the United States, or what do I do?
Like, look at how obviously bad faith he is. The man that he's holding has committed no crimes in El Salvador. There wouldn't be any need for smuggling. You would just release him. You would just release him from the prison. Smuggle? You would just release him. He's not been convicted of any crimes anywhere. He's been convicted of no crimes in any country. You could just release him, and then we would repatriate him with a plane flight. We would use a plane. You wouldn't have to smuggle him. You would use a plane. And then he would enter the United States, and that would be that. He would be back in the United States. He's saying this because he was told to say this.
Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like... I mean, the question is preposterous. How can
He might have been directly told to say this by Miller, given how much Miller seems to be orchestrating this coup.
Smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
See, look, Trump's literally smirking here. He's look, dude, look at his face, man.
It's preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
So you can release him inside El Salvador?
Yeah, but I'm not releasing... I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. I mean, we just turned the murder capital of the world into the safest country of the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? No, that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into
I mean, there's a fascination.
El Salvador, Bukele might as well be on the payroll of the Trump. Well, I mean, hold on, he literally is. We are paying him to hold these prisoners. Like, he's on the administration's payroll. There's no reason to, like, just any argument that there's any degree of national autonomy here on the part of El Salvador is completely bad faith.
They would love it.
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people.
So yeah, here we are. This is like the end time right here. It's a Supreme Court order 9-0 that they're openly defying. That's it. That's it. They're testing it, and they have tested it, and they have found they can do literally anything that they want. We can send you with no charges to a essentially death camp in El Salvador. We won't remove you once you're there. We'll pretend after admitting it was a mistake to send you there that it wasn't a mistake to send you there, and we're going to send citizens there too. Genuinely, what happens next? I don't know. Why do you keep asking me that? You're very annoying. You're testing my patience. What do you mean? What happens next? Nobody knows. Anyone who tells you they know what happens next is lying to you. Predict the future? I'm trying. A Democratic senator said if Kilmer isn't returned by midweek, then he's going to go to El Salvador. I did see that, and I do think that's a good step, I have no idea what's going to come of this. I wouldn't be surprised if the Trump administration tries to, like, bully him out of doing it. Chris Van Hollen from Maryland. So is this being exaggerated, or are we failing to protest the opening of the camps? Are you a bot? I don't understand what the rhetorical questions are. You're trying to outsmart, like, reality as you see it. This happened. All of this has happened. You're not smarter than it, okay? Thank God live streams weren't a thing back in 1933, okay? That shit would have been insufferable. These are good faith questions? No, they're not. Also, it doesn't matter whether or not they're good faith. What matters is whether or not they're annoying, which they are. It's the main thing that I care about. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I don't know. It's, I don't really understand what the path out of this is. If Stephen Miller's position on this is essentially like maximalist executive power, nothing can stop it, nothing can check it, it's over for everything else, just ignore any legal challenges that you get. There's the only way countries get out of that historically is through military coups. Like that, it's a degree of executive power that you like there's not really any like other path. And I don't think that's going to happen. So what you're saying is nothing can stop the Trump train? In so many words, what I'm saying is nothing can stop the Trump train. Exactly. How will the courts force El Salvador to return him when all the remedies lie with the executive branch? No, that's what I'm saying. That's what you're trying to outsmart what I'm saying. Like, your teacher, look at my point. I know, that's what I'm saying. You're repeating the question. Yeah, the executive branch is the pathway through which this power can be exercised. If the executive branch doesn't follow the law, then what do? Vosh's Doomer arc is getting intense. You guys are cruising for a... you don't know what Doomer means. You have no idea. You're just repeating senselessly the words that you see online. You're like a parrot. You don't understand what these words mean. You're like a child who swears because they hear their dad do it. You don't understand how to connect the words. It is what it is. Negativity is Doomer. It's not even negativity, man. I'm repeating the news to you. This is what's happened in the past 48 hours. It is kind of negative, not gonna lie. That's just real life, man. Another Palestinian student has been detained by ICE in the middle of his appointment to become a citizen. Yeah, I figure we're going to be seeing a lot of that. Despite a court order, the White House bars the AP from the Oval Office event. Wow, what a shock. Another incident within the past 24 hours where the Trump administration openly defies an unambiguous court order. Richie Torres introduced a bill requiring the U.S. to bring deportees back. That's surprising from Torres. I would expect him to introduce a bill saying that the Trump administration should go further in arresting and deporting peaceful pro-Palestinian protesters. They have to send marshals? Yeah, but the marshals are controlled by the executive branch, is the issue. Judges can deputize? Yeah, but I really don't think that a squad of deputized, otherwise private citizens is going to succeed in dethroning the most authoritarian iteration of the executive branch ever. Here's the issue. The courts in the U.S. cannot force another country to abide by the ruling. Ryan Thompson, are you a bot? What are you talking about? The order to facilitate the release of Abrego Garcia from El Salvador's Gulag is lawfully enforceable, and to suggest otherwise is to be dishonest. There's no ambiguity about this. We can do that. We have the ability to do that. To suggest otherwise is to buy into every bad faith argument made by the administration that all of this is just happening as a natural consequence of existing laws, as opposed to a concerted and deliberate effort on their part to ignore the laws at every step and then ignore everyone attempting to hold them to account. Even that name seems like... I'm just going to mute them. I don't care. What provisions do other countries have for enforcing judicial authority over the executive branch? You guys are getting awfully cerebral over the whole end of the country thing, you know? I feel like maybe I'm the one cruising for a bruising. You guys are pissing me the fuck off today, I have to say. It's the end of the goddamn republic. What are you trying to intellectualize it about? You should be posting emojis. Like, no, like that, you know? That's an appropriate response. There you go. That's right. React properly. Yes, the Schutzstaffel are being sent to my house to take me to a death camp. I wonder which YIMBY housing policy could have prevented this. F you, piece of shit. Former President Biden to make first public speech in Chicago, Tuesday? Ugh, I'm sure it'll be great. How far along are you on the leave the country train? I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the timeline for this country being worsened has moved along quite a bit faster than I expected it to. You know, I can't see the future. It's looking pretty bad over here, man. It's looking pretty toasty, I gotta say.